Hi, welcome to Furhour Talks. Today we are meeting Genevieve, who is an animal Bowen therapist in Dubai. But before that, please like, share and subscribe our channel. Hi Jen.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Welcome to Furhour Talks.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you, and we want to know more about you and about the therapy which you are into. You're into Bowen Therapy. How did you get into Bowen Therapy, and can you introduce yourself also?
Yeah, so as you said, my name's Jen. My career started in horse racing, actually. I went into horse racing at 18 because I didn't really, this is my cat, Baby. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, so I thought I'd have an adventure year and just go into racing, and I was still in it 20 odd years later. But whilst in racing, most of us, we've fallen off multiple times and we've all got our aches and pains and injuries. So I was seeking some therapy for myself and a lot of other therapies. They'd work initially and then, all the pain would creep back in. And I heard about Bowen Therapy whilst working in Australia because I'd heard that it was the most effective alternative therapy in the country, and I'd never heard of this therapy, so I thought I must go and try it. And then when I tried it, I loved it and the results were great. And the teacher just made an offhand comment because she knew that I told the therapist, I told her that I work with horses, and she said, oh, you can treat horses with this therapy, there's courses.
Okay.
So that's what planted that seed in my head, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I'd love to do that one day, but it wasn't really a possibility at that time. But then when I moved to Dubai, I was still with horses, but I had a lot more time on my hands. And so it became something that I started to learn. And in order to be a horse therapist, I initially had to do the human qualification. So I did that first, and I loved that. Actually, that surprised me that how much I enjoyed treating people. And then did the human one, and then did the equine one. And then on from that, my goal was also always to do the dogs and the cats and the animals. So that was the final piece of the puzzle. And I did that a couple of years back. And so I'm treating all through. So my days are very varied these days. I treat people, horses, cats, dogs. Yeah, it's really varied and fun.
So what exactly is Bowen Therapy then?
It's a holistic therapy, which means it treats the body as a whole.
Okay.
It's a very gentle and light touch. So we're just stimulating the nerve receptors in the fascia to send a signal to the brain to rebalance and repair. So our body's got this capacity to heal itself, and animals likewise. But sometimes that healing process gets a bit stuck. By giving these inputs with this gentle manipulation, we restart that process and initiate the body's own healing repair system.
So is it a difference between a physiotherapy session and a Bowen therapy session? Is there a difference in that?
Yeah, physiotherapy will often use soft tissue work, so they'll do sort of massage work to release the tension that way, and they'll often do exercises or different machines, maybe ultrasound or traction, things like that. Whereas Bowen, like I said, is just primarily doing this very gentle work, simulating the nervous system into that state of repair again. And we're also shifting the body into this, into what we call the parasympathetic state. So a lot of the time we get stuck in what's called the sympathetic, or the fight or flight, which is more commonly known.
Yeah.
So when we are in an emergency or we're stressed, and the body can't really differentiate the difference between a real life emergency, which for our ancestors would have been, a threat like a fire or a predator or something. And today's stresses, which would be work or relationships or traffic even. So we often, how we're biologically wired is only to go into that state for that specific emergency, and then we go back into parasympathetic, because our parasympathetic is where our healing and our repairing takes place.
Okay.
So if we're stuck in sympathetic, all our resources for our body is going into surviving and to fighting off this predator or to running for our lives. And our body's ignoring all of the healing and the repairing. And often we get stuck in that state, and that's why our injuries and our illnesses just linger on and on and on and never get resolved. And we get these digestion problems and sleep problems and anxiety problems. And we can say the same for our pets as well. Particularly if they come from a rescue background, we don't often know our animals' background, especially in this country. A lot of people have rescue animals.
Right.
And they've been through traumas, And they can get stuck in that pattern as well, no matter how much love and care we give them. And, you know, maybe in some cases their needs aren't fully met with dogs. You know, it's difficult sometimes with these larger breeds, even the smaller ones, they need a lot of work and exercise. And so the therapy will take them out of that fight or flight and put them into that parasympathetic and relaxed and healing state and help facilitate the body's healing process.
So let's say about the animals, for the pets. So do they require multiple sessions for these, or like a one session is helpful to them to cure them, it'll help to cure them?
Yeah, so sometimes one session you'll see a really big difference just after one session, but I usually recommend 3 or 4 sessions in a row, sort of around a week apart. We say 5 to 10 days, around a week, and that just gives them, you know, every session builds upon what we've done in the prior session. The body unwinds a little bit more and we can see the changes. So yeah, I mean, generally we'd say 3 or 4 sessions is ideal. And then if you've got a chronic problem, let's say arthritis, it's not something that we can cure. So we're more like managing the symptoms of that. So the joints have inflammation, but then what happens is the muscle gets tight and in spasm because it's feeling this pain inflammation. So by releasing the muscles, by increasing the circulation, by helping the lymphatic system, and by damping down that pain response with the nerve receptors, we can keep that animal in the best state it can be, you know, in optimal health, even whilst it's managing that condition that's not going to go away.
So there are any sort of neurological or energetic principles behind this?
Yeah, I mean, the therapy itself works, like I say, by stimulating the nervous system. So the nervous system, as we know, is our brain and all of the spinal cord and nerves that branch out. So when we do a little Bowen move, which would be, if he'll let me do it, we'll just roll over the muscle or the fascia or tissue and roll back. And just that gentle move will stimulate nerve receptors, because we have various nerve receptors in our skin. Some respond to a deep pressure, some respond to very gentle pressure, some respond to heat. There's different receptors to different pressures and different inputs. So by doing this move, we incorporate a stretch receptor, which is when we're moving over we're rolling the skin over the muscle and the fascia. We're stretching. Then we're applying a little bit more pressure, so we're stimulating a deeper response here, and then we're rolling back. So all of these little inputs are triggering something that sends a signal up to the brain. And then on an energetic level, Tom Bowen was very fascinated with Chinese medicine, so he was very interested in acupuncture, acupressure, shiatsu, all of these old, you know, ancient healing modalities, which, you know, incorporate things like meridians and energetic pathways or qi. So, the Bowen, often when acupuncturists study Bowen, they'll say, oh, I completely understand why he did these moves here, because this correlates with this acupoint or this meridian. Right. So in the same way, I think we often are stimulating meridians and we're often getting that qi moving again, unblocking blockages. So there's definitely that. And I think anytime we use touch, you know, lots of studies have shown this, there's an energy exchange, there's a benefit to that. Right. So just touching an animal with intention to heal, intention to give them something and help them, I feel like there's a layer of added something to the session as well, just with that alone. So I think it's with a lot of healing modalities, there's a lot wrapped into one, but Bowen particularly encompasses so much.
Even emotionally, does it like de-stresses them, and emotionally also it helps them or something? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, because of this parasympathetic shift that we get them into, I mean, I know from treating humans and having the therapy myself, we often carry our trauma in our tissues as well. Okay. We carry trauma and stress and emotions in our body. And sometimes by physically releasing that with a therapy session, rather than just like with humans talking about it, well, I mean, not that that's bad, but again, you get another layer of release with that. And sometimes that will be the thing that helps somebody get over that hurdle, which maybe they're being stuck on. And so I'm sure that the animals, and I've seen it with the animals, feel the same way. We're treating horses, cats and dogs. They all get an emotional release as well. So, it's really nice for them as well that it's not something that's being applied to them and forced on them and done to them. It's something that their body's doing themselves, and then they're also getting something spiritually, emotionally and physically as well.
So you yourself are a therapist.
Yes.
So do you do the therapy on yourself also? Like therapy you do?
No, so I'm not able
animals?
to do it on myself because the first half of the session, you sort of, as a person, you'd be lying on your tummy.
You're right.
And so the practitioner does the moves on your back, and then the second half, so unless you're a contortionist, it'd be very difficult to do it. So no, I have a very good friend who's also a therapist, and we arrange more or less weekly get-togethers where I'll treat her and she'll treat me. So yeah, I think it's important when you're a therapist to get therapy for yourself, just to make sure that you're in a good place, because, you know, if you're going to try and help other people, you need to make sure that you're physically well as well.
Right. Right. So getting back to the animals, so any sort of contradictions are there? There are certain times which we shouldn't take them to this kind of a therapy, shouldn't be taken into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I think any time that an animal has sustained an injury or has an illness, the first port of call should always be the veterinary practitioner to make sure there's nothing. They need to do their investigations and find out what the conventional course of treatment is. And then if they're satisfied, then Bowen is a really good complement to traditional, the Western medicine. So I often do cases within the clinics, veterinary clinics, and work on animals that are getting their conventional treatment from the vet, and then I'm supporting that treatment with the therapy. So I mean, if an animal has a broken leg, if they have a acute injury, open wound, obviously then initially you send them to the vets.
It can go along with the vet treatment if some sort of a treatment they are going through, and along with that it can go they can take the Bowen therapy also.
Yeah, definitely. And I think vets see the value in that as well. They see that their outcomes are better if the animal is supported with some sort of physical therapy at the same time. But aside from that, no, there's no contraindications for Bowen therapy. We kind of have that mantra: it can do no harm. So yeah, it's not something that causes pain. It's not something that causes ill effects. So it's a very safe treatment for animals.
What kind of animals do you treat?
So mainly horses, cats and dogs, but Bowen can be applied to any animal really. So even exotics or even things like camels or farm animals. Yeah, there's, all animals can be treated with Bowen.
Okay. And you treat them here at your home, or you have some other clinic or something, or you're connected with some other clinic?
Yeah, so a variety really. Some people will bring their dogs here and I'll treat them here. They can even bring their cats here. I've got my own cats, but I can put them in another room. But generally I'll treat people's pets in their own home, because they're particularly with cats, they are more relaxed and comfortable obviously in their own space. Okay. And then I often treat animals at the clinic. So I work with a clinic called Vienna Veterinary Clinic in Sikkim. So I go there and treat within the clinic as well. And then horses, of course, at their stables where they're stabled. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of issues commonly you come across, like for the treating part I'm asking?
For dogs and cats, a lot of arthritis. It's quite common as they get older. Sometimes it's rehab from surgeries or injuries. Sometimes, they're running and jumping and maybe they tweak something, they strain a tendon or a ligament or muscle. So just getting them over that and getting them back into full mobility again. Sometimes behavioural, so sometimes it's stress and anxiety. And often pain and behavioural are very linked. So oftentimes a dog that can be quite aggressive or stressed is in a lot more pain than people realise, and that's why he's defensive or aggressive, because he's in pain. Because they're very good at masking they can't talk, of course, and then they mask their pain levels, because not only are cats and dogs predators, but they're also prey. So for them in the wild to show pain and to be lame or to be in a state of weakness would mean that they would be more likely to be predated and hunted. So you'll often find that animals have got a very high pain threshold that they're not showing you that pain.
How do you, if you come across an aggressive or very stressed a dog or a cat, then how do you treat them? It will be very difficult for you to, first of all, approach them. So how do you approach them then?
First of all, I'm just very mindful of them and their body language and respect their space. You don't ever want to just go straight up to a dog and be confrontational. So initially I'll speak to the owner whilst the dog gets accustomed to my presence, hears my voice, smells my smell, and gets comfortable with me in their space. And then try and let the animal come to you. I mean, most dogs are quite curious and they want to sniff you. And then work within their comfort levels. So, you know, if they're showing particular aggression, you're obviously going to be respectful of that because it's quite dangerous. But I also sometimes can work with the animal trainer or behaviourist as well. So there's somebody in the room that's a professional to make sure that nothing, you know, to make sure that we're safe. And sometimes you might even want to muzzle the dog as well. If they're a known biter, it's obviously much better to be safe than sorry. To put that muzzle on is just protecting me and making everything safer. So yeah.
So do you see any sort of personality changes when after you do the therapy? You see any sort of personality changes in them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, you'll see animals that are in pain or oftentimes they just appear quite shut down. You know, they're not very playful. They don't particularly want to interact. And then once they've had that pain relieved and they've had that the therapy, they become more playful. They become more friendly, more interactive. They want to do their walk more, you know, instead of hiding when it's walk time, they're at the door wanting to go for their walk. So yeah, you do see big shifts in personality.
You have any sort of your favorite story which you would like to share with us?
There's quite a few. It's hard to choose, but yeah, I think dogs, I had one dog particularly, but there's been several like this that like I say, were quite aggressive, you know, not happy characters, you know, not really wanting to go for their walks and difficult for their owners. And then with the therapy and with also some training as well from a professional trainer, they became so much better and, you know, really started to enjoy life and wanting to go out. Okay. And then I guess also I've got one pet myself that I found hit by a car. She had really severe head injury. If you'd have seen the video of her when I first found her, you'd never ever think that this little cat was going to survive. And I took her to the vet thinking I'd have to just get her euthanized, and they said, just give it a try. So yeah, I mean, she came home with me and I just did Bowen moves on her every hour or so. I just do one move at a time. I didn't want to overwhelm her body. And she was unconscious for 3 days and then she pulled through and now she's a very happy cat. And after a while she developed epilepsy. So we put her on medication, me and the vet, and then again I treated her and reduced the medication, put her on supplements, and now she doesn't have epilepsy anymore. So yeah, she obviously, because she's mine, she's one of my favourite success stories. But there's so many good stories. Everyone is a highlight, really.
So I am seeing here that you have rescued like a lot of cats. Like how many cats have you rescued till now?
Well, I've got 6 cats that I've rescued, and then I've rescued other cats that I've rehomed or found places for them. So yeah, but that's, to be honest, there's rescuers over in Dubai doing miracles, you know, rescuing hundreds of cats. And so really I'm very small fry in the rescue stakes. I've got good friends that have got sort of 20 cats in their apartment right now, and they send them to the UK and they send them to Europe. So yeah, I just done a small part in that.
So even on the rescued cats, you have performed the Bowen therapies?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I've had cats that...
Other than the cats which you are having, even the other rescue cats also?
Yeah, I've had cats that have been on the street, you know, very malnourished, very poorly with illnesses and things, respiratory problems and infections. And yeah, I've nursed them back, you know, treated them and got them back to health and then rehomed them. Other people's rescues that I've gone and helped with. Yeah, so yeah, there's been really nice cases with the rescue cats.
Even dogs also, rescued dogs also you have treated?
Yeah, not so much as in right from the day when they've been rescued, but that's sort of more dogs that other people have rescued. They've done the veterinary treatment and then they've had, you know, lingering issues and things. So we've treated them along the way. But in Dubai, a lot of pet dogs are rescue dogs. So yeah, you're always going to be treating rescue dogs, which is nice.
So, as per you, what signs that pet parents can look out, that, okay, now my pet, he requires a therapy, he requires a Bowen therapy or something, then what signs they can look out for that?
I think just checking their mobility. So, like I say, they're very good at disguising their pain. But if you notice that your cat or dog is more reluctant to jump up onto the sofa or the bed or something, if you notice they're a bit stiffer when they have their nap and then they get up and they walk away and they seem a bit more stiff or tight. Yeah, I mean, maybe they don't want to eat as much if it's a dog, if they don't really want to go for their walk, or if they're on their walk and they want to turn around and go home earlier. All of those are signs that they could be in pain. Sometimes excessive grooming, they don't particularly want you to touch them in a certain area. You know, maybe they're very protective of their back end, their pelvis, or maybe they're, you know, defensive around when you go near them to touch them. That's all signs that they could be in pain or, you know, have issues. So, like I say, first port of call, get the vet to check them. But then, yeah, it's great to give them some therapy. No.
That I've seen an actual cat fight. After these therapies which you have done for the pets and also, do you believe that they have an emotional imprint of these therapies on them, or they remember these things?
Yeah, I do, definitely. I mean, I noticed that at first when I first started treating horses, that you'd get horses that would be really, you'll always get a couple of horses in any yard that are quite angry and defensive and maybe difficult to handle. You know, they might bite or kick. And so on that first session, you know, obviously you're very careful and you've got a helper with you, a groom. And then when you come to do them on the second session, subsequent sessions, they're actually way calmer, way more receptive. They're not trying to bite, they're not trying to kick, because they've realised that they remember you. It's amazing. You know, in a big yard, you might have over 100 horses. You've got a huge amount of staff, grooms, riders, you know, trainers and people like that. So they're seeing a huge amount of people, but they recognise you from a week ago when you treated them. Okay. They know your presence immediately, and they're calmer, they're more relaxed, and you see a massive change after that first session. And likewise with the pets. And it's so nice sometimes when owners will say, wow, this dog only reacts like this, you know, when you walk in the door, to us, like no one else, you know, so they recognise you as just someone to be really excited and happy to see. Okay. So I mean, cats are obviously a little bit more reserved. They're more nonplussed, but still, you know, you'll get cats that in the clinic, they would generally be quite apprehensive and anxious, but as soon as you start working on them, they're purring and they're relaxed, and they, you know, they're so intuitive, they're so clever, they recognise us for sure, and their senses are so much more heightened. You know, they can smell us, they recognise our scent, our voice, our energy. So yeah, for sure.
So we have come across with a lot of Bowen therapy myths. So we would like to share, we would like you to share a light on them. That is it true, false, or what is the story behind them? So let's say the first one, like Bowen therapy is just a form of a massage.
No, so it's pretty different to massage. As we discussed, it's a massage is just a continuous pressure where you're working across the muscle fiber to kind of break down those adhesions or loosen out that muscle. Whereas, like I said, Bowen's these very gentle moves that stimulate the nervous system. Another thing I didn't mention with Bowen, which is very important, is in Bowen therapy we have 2-minute breaks. So you do a move on the animal and then you step away or just leave them for 2 minutes. Okay. And that's just to let the brain process that information, that input, and respond. So that's a key difference. Instead of having this continuous contact with the pet, you're doing just a simple move or a couple of moves at a time, and then you just leave them. Yeah.
Okay. It only works on physical injuries?
No. Again, as we discussed, it's great for the emotional. It works as it switches them into parasympathetic. It's taking them out of that fight or flight, letting them relax, letting them digest, letting them have the body have the chance to put its energy into repairing and healing. So it definitely has an impact on the emotional and the physical at the same time.
Animals need to stay completely still during the session?
No, that would be very difficult if it was the case. No, you just you just work with the animal. You know, some animals will fall asleep as soon as you start to treat them. Like dogs are very much, they just tend to go to sleep. Okay. They relax, they just go with it, and they'll often be asleep. If you're treating a little young cat like this who's going to be up and down, you just work with him. And if they want to move around, you let them move around, because they kind of dictate the session to you. So if they're feeling a bit overwhelmed, maybe they want to, they take a bit longer to process, they want a bit more space. You respect that, and then you know when they come back to you, you continue with the session.
Okay. One session is enough to complete the healing?
Well, usually we say 3 to 4 sessions is the ideal. Yeah, one session is just kind of, you can get a great result, but a lot of the time you're laying the groundwork for the subsequent sessions. So better to do a couple in a row and get a long-lasting result that's really good than just to do the one.
Okay. And any pet parent can do the Bowen therapy with a little training?
I don't know of any courses just for the owners. There might be some, but ideally I think it's better to get someone that's qualified, that knows, to get the best result. I mean, I'm not against any owner trying to help their animal doing massage or any kind of treatment. It's better to do something than nothing. But yeah, if you want a really good result, I think better to seek out someone who's qualified, because the qualifications are quite rigorous. I mean, especially if you had to do the human first, there's a lot of anatomy, physiology involved, and so I think you get the benefit of that when you get a professional.
As a therapist, what is the most rewarding part of your work?
Just helping people. I think helping people, helping animals, helping improve lives, I think. It sounds quite worthy, but yeah, it's always nice if somebody's suffering or if an animal is suffering and you can make an impact, even if that impact is 1%. I mean, that's wonderful, isn't it? But a lot of the time it's a lot more significant than that, and that's a bigger reward. I love it.
So anything surprising you have learned from the animals? You're closely working with them. So anything surprising you learned from them?
I think that their capacity to heal, I've worked with some really desperate rescue cases where you would think that euthanasia is the option. Okay. And yet these animals can rebound and come back. There's such little miracles, and they're so stoic. Their capacity for pain and then for forgiveness as well. A lot of animals are unfortunately really mistreated by humans, and yet still will have so much love, have so much love for humans and forgive so much.
That's
so
true.
I think that's...
I feel that even the calmness sometimes, they can sense our emotions also. Yeah. I feel that.
Definitely. I think they're so much more in tune to us than we realise. I think they read our minds. I think they, you read studies about how dogs and cats know when their owners are returning. The statistics are amazing about what the percentages of dogs, when they studied owners, that they knew in advance of when the owners was coming back. So they're so connected to us. True.
That's true. And as you had said, there is an exchange of energy between the pet you are treating and yourself. So in that case, how do you stay grounded?
I never feel drained from the animals actually, but I think it's good. Like I said, I get the therapy on myself usually once a week, and I think spend time in nature is important for everyone, isn't it? I like to go out for a run and do exercise and be in nature, and then just spend time with my own pets and enjoy the company of my animals is good.
Any new clients, they have some common questions they come up to you?
I guess the most common is how many sessions and what to expect. So things that we've already discussed. Good. Can it do any harm? Which is obviously not the case. It can't. So that's the kind of usual questions.
Okay. And I'll ask you a fun question. Two fun questions I'll ask you. Okay. So if you could give Bowen therapy to any animal in history, okay, any real or fictional, whatever, your choice, who would it be and why?
I think because of my background in horse racing, it'd probably be one of the greats in the horse racing industry. So
the Black Stallion or something like
that. It would probably be something like Secretariat or Frankel or Arkle. They're very, very famous racehorses. They've gone down in history as sort of the greats. So a horse like that's a legend. But I've been super lucky in my career that I've treated some very successful horses. So that's a privilege. But to be honest, all of them are just as important, aren't they? So but I think I'd have to say a famous racehorse like Frankel or something like that. Yeah.
Lovely. And let's say if you were an animal receiving Bowen therapy, what would you be? Which animal you would be and why?
Oh, I think definitely a cat, because 18 hours a day of sleep and then just eat and then just get and get spoiled and get some therapy. I mean, you can't really beat that, can you? So I think a cat would suit me very well.
Okay. So let's move on to the game segment now. It's about decoding animal body languages. So how it will work, that I will give you some animal behavior and you have to decode it. Okay. So the first one, Dog yawns repeatedly during a car ride.
Sometimes that can be just a sign of stress and that they're releasing that stress. Maybe they've got anxiety about being in the car and being on a journey. So sometimes that would be what that is. And sometimes they might be just tired, but yeah.
Okay. A cat suddenly flops onto its side in front of you.
They want your attention. They're kind of, if they're flopping onto the side and showing their belly, it shows that they're very comfortable and that maybe they want you to reach down and stroke them or give them affection. Or it might be that you're really allergic and you hate cats and then they've come to sit right next to you because they know that and they're just trying to be annoying. You can do both of those things.
Okay. A horse flicks one ear back and one forward while standing.
Usually they're very aware of their surroundings because they're a prey animal, so they have to always be conscious of every noise or every movement around them. So it might be that they've heard something in front of them and they've also heard something behind them. So they have the ability to move their ears to point in different directions to capture that sound, to figure out what that is. Because, in the wild that might have been a predator. So yeah, they're always, even though they're domesticated, they always retain those instincts to always be on guard and aware.
Okay. A dog sits and raises one paw slowly.
He's probably wanting to get your attention. Maybe he's been trained to do that for a trick.
Okay.
Maybe he's looking just to get your attention and to get some fuss or something. Yeah.
Okay. A rabbit runs in circle around your feet.
Maybe they're just really excited and having a zoomie, and also expressing happiness and friendliness. So yeah, that's usually why bunnies zoom around.
Okay. So Jen, can you demonstrate or tell us some simple techniques or rituals wherein the pet parents can relax their pets?
I think having a predictable routine is really helpful. So when they know when they're going to get fed and when they're going to go for their walks, if they go for a walk, just being calm, having a calm environment in your home, and being present with them. Because I think often when we have our pets, they're part of the background sometimes, and we don't give them our intention sometimes. That we kind of absentmindedly stroke them or absentmindedly, pet them. But I think sometimes being present with them and letting them know that you're actually valuing that time with them and thinking, even if it's just for a couple of minutes a day, when they're there, when they come to you for attention, give them attention, but be mindful about it and be intentional about it instead of just, I'm busy on the computer, I'm busy on, looking at my phone. I think we spend so much time on our phone and our pet is right there and we're not even acknowledging their presence. So I think that means a lot to them. And just knowing that they're safe, when you walk in the door, greet them, say hello to them. When you leave, it sounds kind of silly, but say, I'm coming back soon. You can verbalize that. I'm coming back. I'm only going to go to the shop. I'll be back in a minute. Or I'm going to go to work. I'll be back tonight. I know that sounds mad, but I do think that they understand on some level. The same way that we want our own lives to be calm without shouting, without chaos. I think the animals really appreciate that as well. And then if you have a particularly anxious pet, there's things like pheromones that you can plug into the wall, which, they produce a pheromone that the animal finds very calming. And then beyond that, you can also get calming supplements. If you've got a dog or a cat that's been traumatized and, there's actually some herbal supplements that can be really beneficial as well. And in worst case scenarios, there are medications. So there's a whole range of things that you can do to help your animal. And then, of course, the therapy itself is really calming.
True. So, any sort of technique on like a massage technique or something is there which the pet owners can do it?
Well, I think whatever your pet enjoys, to their tolerance level, just touch is very, very powerful. Our touch. And then, everyone can do massage. That's something that every human has the ability to do. So just don't be afraid to just play around with it and see what they'll tolerate, see what they enjoy, see what they accept. Because even though I don't do massage, but if you don't have access to a Bowen therapist, or if you've got time when you want to do something immediately, then just do your best to massage them, what you think feels like. A lot of the time, our stroking is a form of massage to them. We're stimulating their nerve receptors and we're helping to relax them. So yeah, you can just figure it out and play, or don't be scared to try yourself.
Thanks, Jen, for coming to our show and letting us know so much about Bowen Therapy, even to our pet parents also. introducing Bowen Therapy to them also. So I'm sure it'll be quite helpful for all of us in this. So, but prior to ending it, our pet parents would like to hear something from you, and also where they can reach out to you.
Okay, sure. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Animal Bowen Therapy UAE.
Okay.
I've also got a separate equine account, so if people have got horses, it's Equine Bowen Dubai. And then for my human account, it's Dubai Bowen Therapy. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I have a website as well. So you can check out any of those that you might like.
Sure. And if you can look at the camera and you can, send a message to them.
So I think the key thing is just to be aware of any subtle changes in your pet's behaviour and try not to let it slide too long before you seek help or seek a veterinary attention or get some therapy. Like I say, animals are really good at masking their pain and their problems. So just try and be aware, see what their normal levels are, and then if anything changes, just get it investigated and maybe get some treatment for them, because they'll put up with a lot of pain before they'll let you know that they're suffering. So yeah, we all love our pets, so we want to make sure that we do our best for them. So keep an eye on them and be mindful and make sure that they're feeling their best as much as we can.
Thank you for a lovely message. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope this information is helpful to you all. For more, please like, share and subscribe to our channel.